1960s, the United States was divided as never before. The North and South were battling it out to see who would decide the country's future. One of the heroes was General John Logan, an Illinois native whose statue has stood for decades in Grant Park. 100 years later, this country was deeply divided again, this time over another war, this one 12,000 miles away in Vietnam. Nearly each week, the death toll grew, and with it, the opposition. With that backdrop, the Democrats decided to hold their 1968 National Political Convention here in Chicago. The city had experienced 2 major race riots in less than a year, the most recent following the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Threats and rumors by some anti-war leaders to disrupt the convention were met by stern security measures from City Hall. And as that week unfolded, television provided the play-by-play.
They're here to make trouble in Chicago. We're not talking to them. We're talking to the people that are candidates. And of course, we're talking to the yippies and hippies and flippies and everything else.
Yippies that march in the amphitheater or go downtown or sit in restaurants that demand their rights, they'll be risking their lives, that's right. These cops here are tough. They'd kill you with a smile. Shoot to kill daily, you know.
It was a kind of rehearsal for the week that is to come. Already police are guarding all the amphitheater and parking lot entrances. That new barbed wire and cyclone fence now enclosing the parking lot has its quota of police guards as well. We have a show of force. In other words, we'll get our people out in good military appearance and with their proper weapons and show them what we've got. Our formations, wedge and line and echelon, and use of bayonets, first with the sheaths on, and then if necessary we take the sheaths off. Beyond that, we get into our chemical agents, which is mace and that type of thing.
Democrats, Washington, D.C. Democrats, 999. Washington, D.C. We're looking for that mail. Democrats, Washington, D.C. Democrats.
The 35th Quadrennial Convention of the Democratic Party of the United States is now called in session.
It is an important sign of faith to the American people for this national political convention to be held here, not in some resource center, but in the very heart of Chicago, in one of the greatest neighborhoods of Chicago, my neighborhood.
Then the police moved, with a truck carrying huge spotlights leading the way across the darkened park, firing tear gas from another truck and from gas guns up the slope toward the outer limit of the park, and the yippies fled before them as they had the 2 previous nights, unable to stand before the heavy barrage of gas.
Come on, move back. You're gonna get hurt. Let's go. Make a stop on it, Tony. Use your rifle first. Use your rifle.
Rifles flashing up and down, just like bugs. Up and down. Tear gas is going. You're getting to taste the tear gas now. At least some of it is whacking over this way.
So far as you know, the police did not respond with undue violence down there.
They never do. Our police department is the greatest police department in the United States, and the men in there are all family men and decent men, and they don't respond with any undue violence.
Walking down the street, man. Nothing's happening. And all of a sudden, these cops. And I ran down and I got about 5, I don't know, I got multiple clubs in the stomach, my shoulder blade, I missed my head, I'm lucky.
And with George McGovern as President of the United States, we wouldn't have to have Gestapo tactics in the streets of Chicago. With George McGovern, we wouldn't have a National Guard. The police department, Mayor Daley, let's all be related to Job. They've shown that much patience. A minority of a minority who would substitute anarchism for ambition. They'd like to substitute beards for brains, license for liberty.
Take your hands off of me unless you plan to arrest me.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Walters, you can see.
I don't know what's going on, but these are security people apparently around Dan. And obviously getting roughed up.
We tried to talk to the man, and we got bodily pushed out of the way. This is the kind of thing that's been going on outside the hall. This is the first time we've had it happen inside the hall.
I think we've got a bunch of thugs here, Dan.
And the chair declares that Vice President Hubert Humphrey is the Democratic President candidate of the United States.
I've never seen on television a picture of a wounded policeman laying on the street. 3 of them are badly hurt. Is this the kind of a coverage of the news we should get from any medium? I don't think we should.
Maybe the police take care of their own and get them out of the way when they're wounded. The others are left to lay there.
Like everyone else.
There was a charge against the police line, and people were hit and people were arrested. And the law of the city of Chicago was upheld.
Mixing politics, nothing is new. A yardstick for lunatics, one point of view. Who cares what games we choose?
I just understand that Premier Kosygin just sent a telegram to Mayor Richard J. Daley and asked him to send him 2,000 Chicago cops. As he said, after last night, it would be no doubt that he would be able to take over Czechoslovakia in about 15 minutes.
We would like to demand the immediate resignation of Richard Daley as mayor of Chicago for his incompetence, viciousness, and Gestapo rule.
Do you believe the purpose of your visit to Chicago has been accomplished?
I think that this week we defeated Hubert Humphrey, and I think that everyone who came feels that it was very successful.
Had stopped the bombing of North Vietnam. It's the title of peacemaker. Martin, Diane, please, for me.
We must be in heaven, man.
Categorically and flatly deny the assertion
I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
The end is near. And so I face the final curtain.
office of President of the United States.
Our politics is strong and vigorous.
Challenger, go and throttle up.
We've heard enough of all of this thing for, what is it, about 10 weeks now.
Plain and simple, the Congress is to blame because of the fickle, vacillating, unpredictable.
Doesn't seem like 20 years, does it? In 2 decades, this nation has gone from President Lyndon Johnson, who said no to another run for the White House because of a divisive war, to President Ronald Reagan, who must say no because the Constitution says he can't run again. Chicago has gone from Mayor Richard Daley, who ruled this city for more than 20 years, to an acting mayor of just a few months, Eugene Sawyer, who's still learning the ropes. It's been some 20 years since that tumultuous week on the streets of Chicago, but the events still seem fresh, as well as the questions. What really happened back then? Was it a police riot, as it's been called? Who provoked whom? What mistakes were made? Whatever happened to the people who were on the streets 20 years ago? In a moment, we'll meet some of them.